There is a moment that happens before every important decision, a moment so subtle that most people never notice it, not because it is brief, but because it exposes something they would rather not see. And that moment is hesitation. You feel it as a pause in the body, a tightening in the chest, a delay in the hand, a second too long before action. And in that second, your mind begins to speak. It tells you that you are thinking, that you are being careful, that you are waiting for clarity. But beneath those words, there is something quieter and more dangerous unfolding. You are not lacking information, you are not confused, and you are not waiting for the right time. You are standing at the edge of commitment, and part of you is afraid of what will be revealed once you cross it. Hesitation is not fear of failure in the way people usually understand fear. It is fear of self-exposure, fear of discovering who you are when the outcome is no longer theoretical. Because once you act, you remove the comfort of imagination, and imagination is safe. In imagination, you are always capable, always potential, always one good decision away from becoming more. Action collapses that fantasy into reality, and reality does not negotiate with your identity. So the mind delays. It scans the future for danger and the past for justification. It replays old mistakes, not to learn from them, but to remind you why staying still feels safer. And the longer you stay in that space, the more intelligent hesitation begins to sound. It disguises itself as patience, as discipline, as professionalism. It convinces you that not choosing is a sign of wisdom. But wisdom feels calm, and hesitation feels tense. Wisdom expands awareness, hesitation narrows it. When hesitation takes over, your attention collapses inward, your body freezes, and time stretches unnaturally. Seconds feel heavy, thoughts multiply. Every possible outcome appears except the one where you trust yourself. Because at the core of hesitation is a single unresolved question. Can you handle being wrong without breaking your sense of self? Most people never consciously ask this question, but their nervous system answers it for them. And when the answer is uncertain, the system chooses delay. Over time, this pattern hardens. Each moment of hesitation that passes without action teaches your mind something about you. It teaches it that you observe but do not move, that you see but do not commit, that you are safer as a witness than as a participant. And slowly, almost invisibly, confidence erodes, not through loss, but through avoidance, not through failure, but through repeated inaction. You begin to identify as someone who understands, who analyzes, who waits, rather than someone who executes. And this is how people drift away from their own potential without ever realizing it. They do not fall, they stall. They become experts at standing on the edge of decision, convincing themselves that the edge is a strategic position. But life does not reward those who stand at the edge. Life responds to movement. And here is the part most people miss. Hesitation does not disappear with more knowledge. It does not dissolve with better systems, clearer rules, or more confirmation. Because hesitation is not a technical problem, it is a relationship problem. It is the relationship you have with uncertainty, with loss, with imperfection, and ultimately with yourself. The mind hesitates when it does not trust the self to remain intact after impact. It is not protecting your results, it is protecting your identity. And every time you avoid a decision to preserve who you think you are, you delay becoming who you actually are. The cost of this delay is not immediate, which is why it is so dangerous. You do not feel it right away. You feel it later as regret, as self-doubt, as a quiet resentment toward yourself when you see others act on opportunities you recognize but did not take. You tell yourself they were lucky, but deep down you know the truth. They moved while you paused, and the more this pattern repeats, the harder it becomes to break, because the mind begins to associate action with threat and hesitation with safety. At that point, even small decisions feel heavy, even clear moments feel unstable, and you begin to live inside a constant state of internal negotiation, always preparing, never arriving. But hesitation is not your enemy. It is information. It is a signal that you are approaching a boundary where growth demands responsibility. The question is not how to eliminate hesitation, but how to stop obeying it blindly. Because the moment you observe hesitation without identifying with it, something shifts. You realize that the discomfort is not a warning, it is a threshold. And thresholds are meant to be crossed, not analyzed endlessly. Action does not require certainty. It requires self-trust. Not trust that you will always succeed, but trust that you will remain grounded even when you do not. When you act from that place, hesitation loses its authority. It still appears, but it no longer controls you. You learn to move with it present, not waiting for it to disappear. And this is where real change begins. Not when fear is gone, but when identity becomes flexible enough to survive experience. In the end, clarity does not come before action. It comes from action. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a byproduct. And the self you are searching for in hesitation is only revealed in motion. Silence follows when you stop arguing with the moment. Awareness returns when you stop trying to protect an image. And in that stillness, after the decision is made, you realize something simple and unsettling. The danger was never the outcome. It was staying divided within yourself. When hesitation deepens, it is no longer just a pause before action. It becomes a pattern inside the nervous system. And this is where most people misunderstand what is really happening. The mind does not freeze because it lacks logic. It freezes because logic is being used to suppress emotion rather than integrate it. At the moment, a decision matters. The brain does something very specific. It compares the potential outcome not to reality, but to memory. Every unresolved loss, every moment of embarrassment, every time you acted and did not receive the reward you expected, all of it is quietly reactivated. This is not conscious recall. It is biological conditioning. The body remembers impact long before the mind forms an argument. So when a similar level of uncertainty appears, the system interprets it as threat, even if the situation is objectively different. The freeze response is not weakness. It is the oldest survival mechanism you have. Fight and flight are expensive. Freeze conserves energy. It buys time. And the modern mind has learned to dress this ancient response in sophisticated language. It calls it analysis, risk management, waiting for confirmation. But underneath, the system is simply trying to avoid another emotional hit that it does not trust itself to process cleanly. This is why hesitation feels heavier in moments that could change your trajectory. Small decisions rarely trigger it. Big ones do, because big decisions carry identity weight. They threaten the internal story of who you are and how the world treats you. If you act and fail, the story must change. If you hesitate, the story remains intact. And the brain will always choose a stable story over an uncertain evolution. This is why the mind freezes most intensely when the opportunity aligns perfectly with your potential. When something truly fits, the cost of missing it becomes real. And paradoxically, that makes action harder. The system senses that this is not just another move, it is a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable. They reflect responsibility, they remove excuses. They show you that if you do not move, it is not because you could not, but because you chose not to. So the mind creates noise, it overthinks, it searches for the perfect condition that will never arrive. It waits for a feeling of certainty that is neurologically incompatible with growth, because certainty only exists in familiar territory, and growth by definition is unfamiliar. The freeze is amplified by the illusion of control. You tell yourself that by waiting, you are staying in control of the outcome, but in reality, you are surrendering control to time. And time does not negotiate. It simply moves forward, with or without your participation. Over repeated cycles, the nervous system learns a dangerous association, that stillness equals safety and movement equals danger. At that point, hesitation becomes automatic. You do not even feel fear anymore. You feel numbness. Decisions lose their sharpness. Opportunities blur. You start missing moments, not because you were scared, but because you were disconnected. This is the quietest form of self-betrayal. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a gradual withdrawal from engagement. And the mind reinforces it by rewarding you with short-term relief. Each time you hesitate and avoid action, tension drops slightly, the body relaxes. That relief becomes addictive. The system learns that avoidance works, but what it does not register immediately is the long-term cost. The cost of living in a constant state of readiness without release. The cost of holding potential without expression. The cost of knowing, again and again, that you saw the moment and did not step into it. This is why people feel exhausted even when they have not done much. Mental hesitation drains more energy than decisive action. Carrying unresolved decisions taxes the system continuously, and eventually the freeze spreads beyond the original context. It leaks into other areas. You hesitate not just in trading or work, but in conversations, in commitments, in life direction, because the brain generalizes patterns. What began as caution becomes identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who waits, who observes, who stays on the edge. And breaking this pattern does not start with forcing action. Force creates rebound. It starts with understanding that the freeze is not a command, it is a signal that your nervous system is ahead of your self-trust. The goal is not to eliminate the freeze, but to move while it is present. To teach the system, through experience, that action does not equal annihilation. That mistakes can be integrated. That loss does not destroy the self. Each time you act without waiting for the freeze to disappear, you retrain the association. Slowly, the brain learns a new equation. Movement equals survivability. And when that equation changes, hesitation loses its grip, not because you became fearless, but because you became internally reliable. The real cost of hesitation is not measured in missed opportunities. It is measured in what happens inside you after the moment has passed. Because once the decision window closes, the mind does not simply move on. It records. It stores the event not as a mistake, but as a reference point for who you are. Each time you hesitate and do not act, a subtle conclusion is formed. When it matters, you retreat. This conclusion does not arrive as a thought, it settles as a feeling, a quiet reduction in self-trust. And self-trust is not built by thinking positively or visualizing success. It is built by evidence. Evidence that you can move through uncertainty and remain intact. Hesitation interrupts that evidence loop. It keeps your identity suspended in potential rather than grounded in experience. Over time, this suspension becomes heavy. You begin to carry an internal tension that never fully resolves because nothing is ever completed. Decisions linger, scenarios replay. You revisit the same moments in different forms, always asking what would have happened if you had moved. This rumination is not curiosity. It is the mind trying to reclaim agency after it has already surrendered it. And the more this pattern repeats, the more your internal world fills with unfinished loops. These loops drain energy. They fragment attention. They make presence difficult. You are technically safe, but internally divided. One part of you wants to move forward. Another part keeps pulling you back into analysis, into memory, into hypothetical control. This division creates a specific kind of fatigue that rest does not fix. Because it is not physical exhaustion, it is cognitive and emotional load. You are constantly managing unexpressed action, and slowly this load reshapes your behavior. You become less willing to engage fully. You lower your risk tolerance not because the environment became more dangerous, but because your trust in yourself declined. You start choosing comfort over alignment, familiarity over growth, and the mind justifies it with rational language, telling you that you are being mature, strategic, responsible. But beneath those justifications is a quiet grief, the grief of unused capacity, the grief of knowing that you are living below what you once sensed was possible. This grief rarely becomes conscious because acknowledging it would require confronting responsibility. So instead, it leaks out as irritation, boredom, cynicism. You begin to criticize others who act, not because they are wrong, but because their movement reflects your stillness. And stillness, when it is not chosen, feels like confinement. The most dangerous part of this cost is that it compounds invisibly. Unlike failure, which provides feedback and closure, hesitation leaves things open-ended. And open-endedness is psychologically expensive. The mind keeps checking the past for missed signals, keeps projecting the future for redemption. You live slightly ahead or slightly behind the present moment, rarely inside it. This erodes your sense of agency. Life starts to feel like something that happens to you rather than something you participate in. And participation is where meaning comes from. Without it, even success feels hollow. You may avoid big losses, but you also avoid deep engagement. And over time, avoiding pain also numbs joy. This is the hidden trade-off no one talks about. Hesitation promises safety, but it slowly flattens experience. It reduces the intensity of both failure and fulfillment. You survive, but you do not fully live. And the irony is that the self you are trying to protect through hesitation becomes weaker, not stronger. Because identity requires contact with reality to stay coherent. When you remove that contact, the self becomes fragile. It depends on control, on predictability, on avoidance. And fragility increases hesitation even more. This is the loop, a self-reinforcing cycle where the cost is not one missed decision, but a gradual narrowing of life. Breaking this cycle does not require dramatic risk or reckless action. It requires something far more uncomfortable: honesty. Honest recognition that the pain of hesitation is not neutral, that doing nothing is not free, that every unmade decision still shapes you. When you see this clearly, hesitation loses its moral disguise. It stops looking like wisdom and starts looking like fear wearing intelligence. And that clarity, though uncomfortable, is the beginning of reclaiming agency. Because once you acknowledge the cost, you can no longer pretend that waiting is harmless. Rewiring your relationship with decision does not begin with confidence, motivation, or courage. It begins with neutrality. The nervous system cannot be argued into change. It must be shown through experience that a new response is survivable. This is why forcing yourself to be decisive often backfires. Force creates resistance, and resistance strengthens the very pattern you are trying to break. Instead, the shift happens when you stop treating hesitation as a verdict and start treating it as data. When hesitation appears, the old pattern says stop, wait, retreat. The new pattern says observe, stay present, and move anyway in small but real ways. This is not about dramatic leaps, it is about restoring trust through repetition. Each time you act while hesitation is present and nothing catastrophic happens, the system updates its expectations. It learns that discomfort is not danger, that uncertainty is not collapse. This learning does not happen in thought, it happens in the body. That is why understanding alone never solves hesitation. Insight without action changes nothing. Action, even imperfect, creates new evidence. And evidence is what the nervous system believes. The key is shifting the internal metric of success. Instead of measuring success by outcome, you measure it by execution. Did you act according to your decision process, regardless of result? This removes the identity threat. Failure no longer means you are wrong as a person, it simply means the process met reality. Over time, this reframes loss as information rather than judgment. And when judgment disappears, hesitation weakens. Another critical shift is accepting that clarity is not a state you wait for. It is a state you generate through movement. The mind wants guarantees before it commits, but guarantees only exist after the fact. When you stop demanding certainty and start tolerating ambiguity, your capacity for decision expands. This tolerance is a skill, not a trait. It is trained by exposure, not contemplation. You deliberately place yourself in situations where outcomes are uncertain, but consequences are manageable. You let yourself experience small losses without self-attack. You normalize imperfection, and slowly the internal narrative changes. You stop seeing decisions as tests of worth and start seeing them as interactions with reality. This is especially important in environments like trading, where uncertainty is constant and outcomes are probabilistic. In such environments, hesitation is often disguised as discipline, but true discipline is not hesitation, it is consistency of execution. When you align with process over prediction, the emotional charge around each decision decreases. You become less attached to being right and more committed to being present. And presence is the antidote to freeze. Another layer of rewiring involves identity. You are not someone who must always choose correctly. You are someone who can respond coherently after choosing. This subtle shift changes everything. Responsibility moves from outcome to response. You no longer fear loss as annihilation because you trust your ability to adapt. This trust is built through lived experience, not affirmation. Each time you recover, each time you integrate a mistake without collapse, your system learns resilience. And resilience dissolves hesitation more effectively than confidence ever could. Over time, decisions become quieter, less dramatic, less charged. You stop negotiating with yourself endlessly. You decide, you act, you observe, you adjust. The internal noise reduces because there is no longer a battle between safety and growth. They begin to align. Safety is no longer found in avoidance, it is found in competence. And competence is built through repeated contact with uncertainty. This is the paradox. The more you step into uncertainty, the safer you feel internally. Not because the world became predictable, but because you became adaptable. And when adaptability replaces control, hesitation no longer dominates your inner life. It becomes just another sensation passing through awareness, no longer the authority deciding your movement. In the end, what remains is not the decision itself, but the state you return to after it is made. Silence replaces negotiation. The internal tension dissolves, not because the outcome was perfect, but because division has ended. You are no longer split between wanting to act and wanting to stay safe. You have chosen, and in choosing, you have reunited with yourself. This is the quiet relief that follows aligned action. It is not excitement, not pride, not victory. It is coherence, a sense that your inner world and your outer behavior are no longer in conflict. This is why action, even when it leads to loss, often feels cleaner than hesitation ever did. Loss hurts, but it moves. Hesitation stagnates, and stagnation erodes the soul in ways that pain never does. When you stop delaying your own movement, life responds differently. Not always kindly, not always predictably, but honestly. And honesty is grounding. It gives you real feedback instead of imagined scenarios. Over time, you stop seeking permission from fear. You stop waiting for the absence of discomfort. You understand that discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are alive at the edge of change. The mind becomes quieter because it no longer needs to protect an image. Identity becomes flexible, shaped by experience rather than defended by avoidance. You trust yourself not because you always succeed, but because you no longer abandon yourself in moments of uncertainty. This trust is subtle, but it is powerful. It restores presence. It brings you back into your body, into time, into participation. Decisions stop feeling like existential threats and start feeling like natural movements within a larger process. And in that space, something simple becomes clear. The purpose of decision was never to control the future. It was to engage with reality fully. When you do that, hesitation loses its meaning. It no longer defines you. It no longer delays you. It simply appears, is noticed, and passes. What remains is movement without inner resistance, awareness without fragmentation, and a life that is no longer watched from the sidelines but lived from the inside. Appreciate your time here. These moments are for observing yourself, not the market. A like or subscribe is welcome if you feel it, but don't rush. Keep this awareness with you and let it guide your mind, your emotions, and your decisions.